It ends in a way where it all started. FC Cincinnati's deep ties to Philly were highlighted by nearly everyone in that run up to the second playoff match. And fans, we all wanted it, didn't we? That elusive win. I think it is fair to say that that match was in reach. So I'm not going to throw the usual happy mumbo jumbo at you because FCC rolled out a dang good squad this year. And you and I both know that this team could beat anyone on any given night. Single elimination is playoffs are just a competition of who can string together results in a row. And that wasn't us this October. But this squad and the fan base, no, it could have easily been a 1-0. It was just a result. Oh, a super offensive team went up against a great defensive team, and neither could figure out how to score for, well, I guess the whole first half. The cool thing for us, though, is that we know this is just the start. Players are under contract, dead money is being freed up, and the club's future looks sunny for the first off season and, well, since in a long while. I don't need to tell you to keep your head up because none of this is new information to you. I saw tons of love being poured out from fans after the dust had settled. Well, until the season ticket gifts started arriving, then everybody got fired up again. You're listening to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We have a great show for you tonight. My name is Boston, and I am joined tonight by Jeremy, Jason, and one new voice. Let's get them all in here. Jason, welcome back in. I hope you have fully recovered since the Philadelphia match.
I'm fully recovered. It's sad that it's all over, but happy I was here for the friends we made along the way.
That's right. That's a good way of putting it. All right, our next host gave us all a scare on Twitter this last week. How you feeling, buddy?
Yes, that. No, I'm feeling good. I would be feeling better if we were still talking about a pending playoff match, but feeling good. Happy. I mean, it's hard to not be happy about this season. It's probably been a while since it's been an end of the season CST podcast where everyone's actually in a good mood.
Right. I think it's weird. It's weird to be okay because we lost. And
right.
I feel like I should be mad. Like I feel like I should be real angry like I am after my NFL team loses or something. But it just feels okay. It feels different. So we're going to work through this emotionally, I think, here tonight. But it takes quite a few people to keep this machine running over here at CST. And every off season, we kind of do an analysis. We look at what worked during the year, what it would be cool to do next year, and also make sure we keep focus on our mission of providing good soccer content for fans. But also, we all are fans. This podcast was started by a collection of people that just wanted to do something fun. And so in that spirit, it's always a good time of year to bring on new passionate people. And so I'm excited to introduce our newest co-host, Josh Dye, making his CST debut. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. Finally, after I feel like numerous times of just telling people out on whim that I have a microphone at my house, that paid off in a way that I didn't expect. So I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. We get we always ask for people to give us feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Sometimes we get requests. We found many people who've shot us articles, and we have more people that have reached out, and we're of course going to get back to you guys. So if you have sent us a message and we haven't said anything, please be patient. Sometimes it takes us a while. Sometimes it takes us an off season to get our thoughts together.
I haven't gotten any of the passwords yet, so eventually, if I start getting in, I can start making something happen.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
So you are in Connecticut. You got to go to New York and you got to go to Philly. All of us are jealous because I did one. I didn't get to do two. How was it watching FCC in the playoffs live?
It was unreal. Usually I live in Connecticut now, so I don't get to, I've actually only been to TQL Stadium once. I've seen one game there, and it was the very first game it opened. That's a whole another crazy story. But the only time I ever really get to see FCC is on the road and when they come out to the East Coast. So This year, it just so happened that a lot of the East Coast dates fell on times where I couldn't go. So I was like, all right, well, of course they're good finally, and I can finally go see a great team perform, and then they, I can't end up going. So the idea that they were, one, going to go to the playoffs, and two, show up in a couple hours vicinity of my living space was pretty great. So I made it happen. Thank you to my lovely fiance for putting up with my nonsense as we're trying to save for our wedding. And it was just like, okay, well, this one's a little bit more important than the last one. I know I can do. Okay. So she let me have my treats there. And so yeah, going to Philly was great. Going to Red Bull was great. And seeing everybody and meeting all kinds of new travelers and the flying pigs, if you will, was incredible.
Yeah. Great turnout. Well, that's awesome. Let's get into our bests and worsts. I'm going to open it up. It doesn't have to just be this game. It can be the 2022 season. It can be whatever you guys want. This is kind of a closing of a door, but opening of another in a weird philosophical way. We'll start with you, Jason. Bests and worst. And if you're watching live, you can throw them in the comments and we'll get them on the screen.
Yeah, I'm going to change my best a little bit. My best for the year is that really outside of maybe one game, I never really felt like FC Cincinnati was out of it at any point this year. There were lots of games that, and I'll get to this in my worst, but there were some games that we gave away. But I think outside of the Austin game, once this team started clicking, I never really felt that they could not compete. I kind of had my doubts they would make the playoffs, but eventually it kind of got clearer and clearer that this was going to be a good team, good enough to make the playoffs, good enough hopefully to get a home game. And so for me, that's the best after the 3 seasons of rubbish that we had to deal with in the first 3 seasons of MLS. My worst is that, hindsight being what it is, there were some games that FC Cincinnati either gave up a win or has some refereeing incidents. There were points left on the table that meant that we couldn't host a game at TQL Stadium. And having seen in MLS playoffs the atmosphere at LA and Austin and Montreal and Philly, the fact that we missed out on that is kind of a bummer, just knowing that we were only a few points off. But I am hopeful that next year we will see a playoff game in TQL Stadium.
You can't have everything in 1 year, right? You can't, you got to have something to shoot for next year. And it's like, let's build on it. Home game.
Don't get greedy.
Don't get greedy.
No, I know what you mean, though. It was in reach, theoretically. If you get Chicago or what was the other one we dropped that was kind of
just the countless draws that we gave up in the final moments of games.
Yeah. Clifford Adams saying best year ever. Worst is a type of sausage he eats with beer, so he's refusing to give us a real worst. That's all right, Clifford. You've done several throughout the years, so you can get off the hook on this one. I don't let these guys get off the hook that much. All right, Mr. Lance, we'll jump to you.
Yeah, my best is I think we highlighted a couple times during the season of where just the passion, the buzz, the energy in the city, in the stadium, just through the fan base, was just at an electric level that and this is not like throwing blame or claiming, people are falling short of not being supporters, right? But there were some lulls these last couple of years where just the enthusiasm was not at the level, in a justified manner. And it just feels so cool to have that buzz in this city back for this team. And it's been great that not only did we have it, but it was like sustained for most of this season. It was good. It was good to be in stadiums that were just loud and crazy for 90 minutes. It was good to see the Bailey just packed to the rafters and singing and chanting in a deafening manner as I stand on the opposite side of them and just hear them all match long, and just the buzz in the city, the pre-match, just the city and the streets are just full of people hanging out, pre-gaming, getting ready for the match. I just loved that that energy was there, and it was there all season long. So that's my best, and I'm so excited to see how that grows and continues next season. My worst, and I think Jason kind of hinted at it a bit, not so much how the results kind of left things short a little bit, and we missed points here and there, but like the amount of energy we all had to spend on just frustration with refereeing in this league and its inconsistencies, it's just moments that just seem just unthinkable. I don't know. I as much as there was so many great moments of this season, like there was so many weeks that were just marred by just having your hair on fire, just incensed by just the most unthinkable reffing decision. So that'll never change, probably, because this is still it's still pro referees doing doing MLS matches, and I don't know. I mean, hopefully things get better, but this has been a trend for over a decade now, where the large growth of pro soccer in America is not being properly paced by a growth of properly certified refs that are at that level. And I've seen this from when I was working in the NPSL and covering USL games, and when FC Cincinnati was at that level. Like, this is just a thing, and it's not going to go away. But I felt like there was so much energy spent on that this season.
Is it because we yell at them? Is that why?
Well, it is. And when you yell at them once, they're like, "Well, that's it. You guys are you're in our books."
March for life.
We're singing it back to you. You're in our books.
Oh man, Will Kajczak, best. It was fun this year. Worst, we keep improving. We'll miss out on these kinds of years. James, James saying being at Red Bull Arena to see that win was my favorite moment. When Brandon scored the go-ahead goal, I almost passed out from screaming. Got to make sure he can hear you. You're all the way up there, We got to make sure Brandon can hear you on the field. Worst, last-minute travel arrangements. That was not cheap, James. I'm with you there. Cole, best. Only getting better from here. Worst, UC Bearcats aren't ranked high enough. Changing sports on us. Cole, I hate to break it to you, man. I think last year's the best it's gonna get. It's not like FCC where the future's ahead of you. I mean, I think the best is in the past, my man. How are you gonna make the finals? 4 again.
Big 12 now.
Because it'll be a Final 8.
Yeah.
It'll be easier to get in.
It'll be an automatic qualifier.
All right. Jeffrey Tebbets couldn't be on the pod tonight, so he's throwing it out here. Best Romans numbers on par with Blake's. This kid's going to take us far. Worst, New York City FC. And the smallest ever MLS of Canada. Still in the playoffs. Dude, for real. Do you know there's a chance if New York is up against Austin, this game is in New York on a baseball field, the MLS final?
There's no way.
There's no way.
That's insane.
They're mathematically eliminated from hosting.
Which is good.
Yeah, I tweeted about it last night because last year I was kind of rooting for that chaos. And
root for the worst thing?
Yeah, because I want them to be embarrassed by it, because maybe it'd light a fire on them.
No, you're right. The league should have their nose rubbed into the bad situation that they've allowed to fester now for a decade.
And this year, there's no way they can host, because Austin was like 4th in the overall standings or something like that. So, yeah. So we're going to miss out on a baseball field.
Are you sure? I thought they could.
No.
I'm wrong. You're telling me. Okay.
Shockingly,
yes,
you are wrong.
There, Boston.
Well, it's happened before. I tell my wife it doesn't happen, but I guess it's happened before. All right. Well, that's it. That's good. That's good. Throw this whole segment out. All right. Let's go to Josh. Josh, give me your best and worst.
Yeah, my best is Chris Albright and Pat Noonan got to get one up on the old Castellini family and tell them where else they could go. Phil asked the question, and Chris Albright and Pat Noonan answered it by saying, "Oh, we're going to put one of the best products in the city of Cincinnati on the field, and people are going to respond," and they did. The fan base showing up every week. With the team putting on the product that they did, it established a a base for the city that says, if this is the quality of product that you're going to put out every week, we're going to show up. And if the response from the other proud organizations in the Cincinnati area are going to be, you're going to come back, don't worry about it. Well, check the logs, check the books, because FC Cincinnati is on its way to surpassing the Cincinnati Reds as a more relevant team in that town.
You saw it in the stands,
which is an insane thing to think about when you knowing that city. But it's look at the numbers, look at everything. It's exciting and sad all at the same time to see the rise of one and the triumphant fall of another. So shout outs to the ownership group at FC Cincinnati for doing it. So my worst is that with all of that great success that Pat Noonan and Chris Albright brought, that only one postseason award was or one nomination for FC Cincinnati on this postseason award in the MLS award season. I'm still just kind of irked by that. Like, it still blows my mind that you can see what Pat Noonan did and not think that's one of the best jobs that's been done, not just this season, but in 5 years. How far back do you want to go where you've had a turnaround from one of the worst teams in the history of the league to just a few points away from hosting a playoff game? Like, that's... And then to obviously with Lucho having the year he had, to not be even nominated for an MVP or Brandon or Brenner, like, pick any of them. They should all could have been MVPs.
No, because we had to put Chicharito on for no reason whatsoever.
Chicharito had to get his obligatory one, and LA and Steve Cherundolo had to get his obligatory, like, I'm the best coach because I'm LA. Like, again,
you took a good team and made them good.
Yeah, no disrespect to those guys. It's hard to win soccer games, but come on. Like, it's insane to think that you can only get it. And it almost felt kind of like we got to give them something, right? We can't just, Roman Celentano doesn't get a newcomer of the year banner, but we got to give Brenner something. It was bad.
Yeah. I have a feeling that I don't know. It's people just vote for names that they're used to. There's a media big part of it, and then there's an MLS part of it, and there's a fan part of it, and I think so much of it skews that, or people just have memories that don't exist outside of the top 4 or 5 teams. Like, it's
right.
It's just
which is insane, because it's like, if you watch that team, like, I mean, yeah, Cincinnati's not going to get the most coverage. They're not playing on ESPN every night or Fox Sports 1 every night, but they were one of the most talked about teams this year for good reason.
Yeah, because
they were good finally.
Had MLS not ruined their Rookie of the Year award and turned it into that newcomer award that had some very ambiguous, like, qualifications for it, Celentano is definitely getting nominated and probably, well, I say probably, we just saw how the other nominations went, probably getting nominated and possibly winning. I'm not really sure what other, like, actual straight up draft pick rookie showed up and showed out the way he did.
Right.
It's not even close.
Yeah, turn around a 3-year fall. That's what gets me. If the storyline is perfect, 3 years in last place. If you want to throw out 2020, that's fine. Still 2 years in last place.
Historically last place, not even just last place. Like, they were historically bad.
You're right. No one has ever been that bad. And then to turn around, finish 5th, make the playoffs. I know the voting was before this, but then win a playoff game. It's a cool story, MLS. Play it up a little bit more. I'm not going to go full Austin mode and claim no one appreciates this, because the Austin fans are really riding that gravy train through the playoffs. I guess everybody needs that chip on their shoulder, though. Like, that's what the fans have, like, this is our chip. We're going to win the whole thing because we have this chip on our shoulders. So I'm not going to go full mode.
This is a league that has struggled to understand how to properly market certain things and like narrative. And, like, you know, you look at, like, people that follow the Premier League and some of the leagues around the world, like, the storylines and the drama and the narrative that exists and that draws you in week after week, season after season, MLS has like no earthly idea how to market that or like bottle any of it. Like a story like FC Cincinnati happens and it just happens, and MLS just has no way of properly capturing it or making other people in the league aware of it, or just the broader sports landscape aware of it. Like it's part of a larger issue that MLS is just really bad at marketing themselves.
Yeah, not only that, but you look at like the other sports leagues in the US, the NFL does a great job at this, is taking stars even from like small markets, like the quarterback in Buffalo. And of course I say this, I can't remember his name.
Josh Allen.
Thank you. But he's a household name around the country, but he plays in Buffalo. And here FC Cincinnati has Brandon Vasquez, arguably one of the best American strikers in the country. And they're not even marketing that guy as like, here's a person you really need to watch and pay attention to.
Doyle is.
If you're a soccer fan. Doyle is, but he's like the only one. And they're, like Jeremy said, they're not good at marketing themselves outside of that little bubble of us dorks who are following them on Twitter.
Well, I'm sure relegating yourself to Apple Plus will totally fix that problem next year.
Hey, at least we can watch the games once.
We can disagree on that.
Well, our best and worst are sponsored by SwearOX, our great friends that have been longtime sponsors. You can find their drinks at Jungle Gyms. I believe you can stumble upon them upon Kroger if you're lucky. If not, Amazon.com, SwearOX.us. It's all there for you to find. Zero sugar, 0 calories, healthy, win. We love the stuff. We've had it at our live shows. We've given it away. We've bought it for ourselves. Check them out. And if you get a chance, let them know CST is why you are buying it, so they know the sponsorship works. That's always good, right?
That's good.
We got to hurry up, man. We're really jibing tonight, getting stuck on the best and worst. My best, though, my wallet doesn't need to figure out how to get to New York again. Holy moly. These playoffs are expensive, guys. This is why I figured out why you want home games. Because traveling around the East Coast, unless you're Josh over there living in Connecticut.
Speak for yourself.
Or a central division. We need a central division.
I'm a Cincinnati, and I'm used to like a low cost of living. I can't go to New York, walk in a hotel, and they're like, $400, please. I'm like, $400 for a night? Ridiculous. So anyway, that's my best in a weird way, spinning it. Worst, not being able to find. I don't even know what I was thinking when I wrote this down, but not being able to find the moment when all eyes are on the club again. I see where I'm going with this now. The FC Cincinnati had the spotlight shown on them, kind of had it to themselves for a moment, and it would have been cool to capitalize it when like the normal Cincinnatian was watching the game, because I think that, all of a sudden people at work are asking you about it again. All these people that don't care about soccer are starting to, it's Cincinnati. There's a lot of hometown pride here. People wanted them to win. So I won't say that there's not momentum. There's definitely a lot more momentum now. And I think FCC, if they're smart, we were just talking about good marketing, capitalize on this marketing, FCC. Go into next year with playoff bound billboards, whatever you need to build the hype. Get some new season ticket holders. Fill that stadium each and every week. There shouldn't be an empty seat next week. We just had a playoff team, a playoff winning team. So let's roll it forward. All right. That's it for best and worsts. We have a few more here online, but we all talk too much, so we will just put them up as we get into this next section. FCC falls to Philly 1-0. Well, what do you guys think? Is this a disappointing game, or is 1-0 a respectable exit? Jason, we'll go to you first.
I think it's a respectable exit. I'm not going to say I wasn't disappointed, though. I mean, FC Cincinnati had a few really good looks at the goal. They did a good job of, I think, keeping Philly from scoring. Defense played okay. Roman came up big several times, and we really tested the Union goalkeeper several times. I wasn't as. I mean, I'm upset we lost, but I'm not. I'm glad that it was as close as it was. I thought we played well, and we showed pretty well in the final game of the season.
Yeah, no, I think the margins were thin. When you go up against a goalkeeper that is really at another level in this league, and Andre Blake, and there's a reason why he is been an MVP nominee and been Keeper of the Year several times over.
Justified.
Yeah. Those are justified awards, right? Those nominations are spot on.
Yeah.
You go up against someone like that and he's on his game, and it's hard to feel bad at the end. Like, yeah, we wanted it to go farther. Yeah, the chances were there. Yeah, like the one mistake that led to a goal, like, was a frustrating slow motion car crash to watch. But like, I don't know. There's way worse ways to bomb out of the playoffs, and we didn't find one of them.
Yeah, Jason. Sorry, go ahead, Boston.
I said at the top of the show, I said it felt like a game. If we played over again, it theoretically could be ours. It wasn't like you walked out of that game like, yep, Philly definitely kicked our butts. There's no way we could have beat them. Like, we could have clearly beat them. We beat them already once in the season. It just happened to not be that night, and that's the way it goes. So I'm not happy, but I'm not like super bummed either. It's a weird in between feeling.
On the whole of the season, no one played the Union better than us.
Yeah, true.
No, you're right.
It was split down the middle, 1-1-1. They just got their one when it was an elimination game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that was it. I mean, you got to remember that first game we played them. That was correct me if I'm wrong. That was the game that Lucho was suspended for. That was Barrial playing the 10.
Yep.
Like, you had Johnny Nelson in that. Like, you had a lineup rotated, and they still played them tactically sound and probably could have beat them on that night. So this felt so similar to that, but it was both teams just throwing the best that they could at each other, and it looked like good soccer. Like, it was just a really good soccer game. And Jason, it went back to your point. Even when they conceded that goal, they never felt like they were done. Like, how many 3 years in a row where it was like that first goal, it's like, well, here we go, game's over. They're gonna collapse. This game's ending 4-0, like whatever. This game felt like a playoff game in the atmosphere, and FC Cincinnati responded by giving a playoff performance through and through, and it unfortunately didn't break for them in the way that you would have hoped. But leaving that game was the moment when we're still drumming, we're still chanting, we're still living it up in the traveler section, because we know that they put on a heck of a show and they gave everything for that game. I know a lot, and that means a lot to a lot of people in this market and these fan bases, that they just want to see you give it all, and you can't deny that they did that.
Yeah, Eric Schmidt on YouTube saying, list of teams that took more than 3 points off Philly this season, FC Cincinnati. End of list. We can be proud of that. I think so. I think this is a team worth building upon. I know a little bit later in the show we're going to get into that. We're going to get into who's staying, who's going, and what can we do to build up. Staying on this match, though, Kubo missing. The lineup comes out. All of us, our jaws hit the floor, because it's like, what changed? Something changed? Oh, where's Kubo? Not even in the 18. Family emergency. Boom, that comes out before the game. And my first thought, I think I even tweeted it out, is we're getting Koenigged again.
Yeah, it was, it was no Kubo, no Cruz. So you're sitting there like, okay, so our midfield substitutions are gonna be
non-existent.
Who?
Yeah. Cameron had a knock too, so he wasn't able to start, which can also cause a little bit of heartburn there.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you guys in a second if you could change one thing about this game, because the score is only 1-0. So you feel like just tweaking a little something here or there might have changed a little bit. But I just wanted to see if any of you guys could, if you could have fixed it. In hindsight being 2020, you could have fixed it. So before we get into that, Philly also, in my opinion, took Brenner out of play. We saw it happen against New York, and Santos was the answer. This time, everybody was supposed to be the answer. Santos, Baji, Brenner, Vasquez. If they're a forward for FC Cincinnati, they were on the pitch at the end of that game.
I mean, you had to, right? At that point, you get to that moment where it's just like, we'll figure it out tactically if we can pull this thing back in. But for now, you just throw everything at the wall and hope at least one sticks. I mean, I didn't hate it, you know what I mean? It was one of those things that you watch that clock tick down, and you're like, yep, all right, yeah, these all make sense. Just put, if you can run fast and go forward and score a goal, just go. Yeah.
What are you changing, Josh? If you're changing one thing,
I don't. You know, you look at the lineup. I don't know what you could have changed again because of the limitations that you had with Kubo being out, and then even Cruz being out. Like you, realistically,
you're trying to be humble as the new guy, and you're like, I'm not smarter than Noonan, because I think I'm smarter than Noonan sometimes.
I just don't. I don't know what you could have done. I mean, maybe you do the Barreal to the right and start Matarrita on the left from the jump, just to really kind of overload things, just to see if that experiment works. Because I mean, I don't hate that as an idea for next season, just to figure out how to get your most dangerous players on the pitch at all times. Like it's something that maybe you would have helped, because then maybe Barreal could, you know, kind of swipe in the middle and rotate a little bit with Wobedo, if he can kind of pull out and be a holding guy and not get forward as much, and let Barreal go forward or let Matarrita go forward. Like maybe you can have that center mid drop in and recover some of those guys, just to really kind of have that extra bite in the attack that, you know, once you got through the first half, you saw it wasn't there, because of course Philly is muddling up everything in the middle and making things really compact for Lucho. So that's probably the only thing I could have realistically would have done, just because of who you had. Obviously, I would have figured out whatever Kubo's family issue was and flew to Japan or wherever it was and solved it for him. However, I could have got him onto the pitch at some point is what I would have done if I had any means necessary.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I'm not going to second guess Pat Noonan on how to go up against Philly. So as far as what changes I'd make, none. I don't know. I'd maybe change what Andre Blake had for breakfast.
There you go.
Maybe something that didn't sit so well. I don't know. Again, the margins were thin. I don't know. I don't know what you're changing. It could have just been something like that. It was a close to a stalemate of a match as you could have in the playoffs. And yeah, I mean, you play that thing 10 times and it's going to go 10 different ways.
I don't know if this was Philly, like you mentioned, gumming up the midfield and taking Lucho out of the game. But I do feel like after he had that, where he went down, I think it might have been the first half, and it looked like he maybe hyperextended his foot. And Lucho does like to milk it a little bit, but I kind of think he actually hurt himself a little, because I feel like he was a step slower the rest of the game. So for me, maybe make sure he doesn't tweak his foot. But it could have just been Philly doing a good job of frustrating him too.
Yeah, in real time, we all thought in the crowd that it was like because he didn't get tackled. He fell. Yeah. He was going to save a ball on the sideline.
He definitely did something.
Fell and kicked it, and it would look like a non-contact, and we're just like, oh boy, here we go. Like, but yeah, I would agree. I think he looked off after that point.
Everyone in Cincinnati collectively held their breath because he is the team in that middle. Like the attack goes through Lucho, and we do not have a great backup. That's when
what was going to be the plan had he got hurt? So Typically, all right. So you roll Barrial into the middle, and then
Bring Matarrita in.
I
early.
get, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And then you're out of good ideas as far as subs for the
Yeah.
midfield.
Was Nelson on the bench? So that's your only other option.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yes, he
Right.
was.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't think he got in that one. Well, that's been fun. I know that it's hard to change anything. You can't change anything. And in a match 1-0, the whole reason I brought it up is just because it was so close. And if there was a way, that would have all been it. Maybe it was as simple as changing or just delaying Andre Blake from getting to the match on time. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right in the right alley there. Anyway, goofing aside, I appreciate the UFC Cincinnati had, the season we had, and the playoff run was amazing. So shout out to the front office. We are going to dive a little bit into the roster. I've seen questions already popping up in chat. Jay, you're asking about Cruz. There's a Facebook post saying he's gone. Actually, Cruz posted that himself. He is definitely leaving FC Cincinnati. I think financially that made sense. But real quick, before we dive into that, let's give a shout out to our second half show sponsor, Apollo Home. Apollo is our newest sponsor. They are a premium home service provider in Cincinnati. They provide awesome customer service, expert technicians, and 7 days a week service. For all of your home, heating, cooling, electric, and plumbing needs, reach out to Apollo. Visit ApolloHome.com to book service online and give them a call to speak to one of their super cool customer service team members. Let them know you are a CST listener, and they will get a technician on site for free. That's right. They will waive the normal $79 service fee for any CST listener. You want to jump on that if you are one of our listeners and you have any need this winter in that space. I would recommend it. All right, gang. Let's get into this roster situation, because for the first time, and I mean, I'm excited about this, for the first time, FC Cincinnati is going into an offseason with pieces we can use, like legit pieces that we have under contract that we get to keep and not want to dump.
You mean people we actually want?
People that we want. People that we get to keep.
People that actually would be bad that we lost and hurt. Like, oh no, are worried now.
So let's jump into it. I think in a matter of days, FCC will be releasing the full roster decision. Keep checking your Twitter timelines, however you get your FCC news. It's coming. These teams have not wasted time this year. You can already look. Any team that wasn't in the playoffs has pretty much released their roster decisions. What is happening is there are players that have a club option. And these are players FCC has the rights to bring back for this year. Some of them have multi-year options. Some of them, this is it. Some players have no option. So that means no matter what, they're probably a free agent, and FC Cincinnati will have to renegotiate with them if they want to keep them. I believe, don't quote me 100% because this is a little bit hard to figure out, that Santos is a no-option player. He does have a weird Philly. We have to pay Philly if we keep him. If he is under option, then that's no matter if he's not or if he is. If FC Cincinnati keeps Santos, we have to send Philadelphia like about $300,000 to $400,000 in GAM, TAM for next season. So that is a penalty just to think about if you want to bring Santos back. Matarrita, I believe, is out of option. Kubo, we know for sure, is probably out of an option. Kenneth Vermeer can no longer be brought back by FC Cincinnati unless there is a renegotiation. Zico Bailey also out of contract. Evan Lurio, I think, is as well, but he was
that extra keeper they brought in, right? Like,
yeah, he's a
late in the
third
season.
string goalkeeper. So that one might be interesting. Any of those guys can come back to FC Cincinnati. There's a period of time where only we can talk with them. So this happened with Nick Haglund last year. Nick Haglund had no option. It looked like he was cut. They cut him technically when that decision came out, but of course he was brought back on a league minimum. So there are things like that could happen. Any of those guys you want to see back in the orange and blue?
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Matarrita come back. I mean, he was hard done this year by the injury, but I think, early in the season, he really showed out for the club. I think he had a goal and maybe an assist or something like that.
Yeah.
But he, I think you can't fault him. He got hurt doing national team duty. And I think he brings a nice veteran presence to that position. I
think that frees up too. You could kind of get experimental with what you want to do with Barrial. Mm-hmm. If Mata slides in and is your starting left wing back, you could, Barrial could become your backup 10. He could become, maybe you try that experiment at right back a little bit more. So I think that kind of gives you a little bit more versatility. Or, if he needs to get a spell, you're comfortable now with Barrial at left wing back. Mm-hmm. That you have some flexibility now.
Matarrita is an odd.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I think Matarrita is the guy on that list that you would look to bring back, unless you do think that Barrial is kind of going to be the guy.
What about the injury thing though? He's hurt a lot.
So that's the injury thing. If for a guy, if you're going to be rotating him and out with Barrial, that's financially, is that the smartest move? Those are going to be two contracts that aren't costing you nothing. So I could definitely see the theory of why they would go against keeping him and maybe look for a cheaper option to bring in to pair with Barrial, and then that's kind of just what you're doing out there. I don't know. I would like to see him back. I think he brings. I think he brings a lot. Jason mentioned it like at the beginning of the season. Him and Vasquez were linking up really well. I was really, really enjoying what I was seeing from him. He was being extremely impactful, and then the injury happens and we lose him for the majority of the season. He comes back in spurts here towards the end that we weren't even expecting that to happen. I don't know. I would like to see it, but I could definitely see, especially since this is going to be another off season where, yes, they're going to have a lot more wiggle room with losing some of this quote unquote dead money. They still want to be really smart with how they build this roster construction to get the most out of it.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the future so in a week or two, we're all going to know our needs because the players are either going to get renewed or they're not going to get renewed. And then it's going to be a little bit more clear picture for us to dive into this. One thing I do want to highlight though, Kubo, if FC Cincinnati chooses not to bring him back, he makes, I think, guaranteed $1.2 million.
Yeah, he makes a lot of money.
Cruz, already announced that he's leaving the team, makes over $1.1 million because he was a signing that we thought we had to have a couple years ago and locked down into a multi-year contract. That contract's finally up. It's turned out he has not been the player that we hoped he would be. He hasn't seen the field very much in the Noonan era. That one.
You mean when he was dubbed Tico Conte?
Yeah. And I mean, I think we all wish it would have worked out better because it would have been better results for FCC the past, couple years. But that's $1.1 million this team gets back to spend. And that, I mean, if you think about it, if Cruz is not bought down, at one point he was a DP for this team because they didn't have the money to buy him down. And so $2.3 million in allocation money that is so valuable. And for once, we might not be hitting the market spending it all on trades. We might actually get to use this money to spread it around and buy down players that we need to buy down.
And one critical piece that we won't have is we won't be able to make 400,000 GAM on trading the number one allocation spot to number two just to move back up and just keep adding. And what a valuable resource that turned out to be.
I mean, that $2 million though, that's 2-3 solid bench players right there.
Easily.
You can easily go out and get yourself a quality center back or another good, decent enough midfielder.
No, there's a starter in there. There's a starter in there too. Yeah, it's not just bench players, but we need depth. You're right.
Yeah,
there are positions. There are positions on this team that are one man deep, like Acosta.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at. The loss of Yuya Kubo is, what a great soldier he's been throughout this whole time. But like we saw it last game, and we just talked about it. Like his presence out of that team is noticeable, especially late in games. So if he is truly gone or isn't brought back on a cheaper deal, like that's a big hole. That's probably one of your biggest holes that you're gonna have is that first center mid off the bench.
Right.
I don't blame Kubo if he holds out, but if I'm FC Cincinnati, I'm making him an offer on a cheaper deal, a non DP range deal. Get him
lower.
Get him under $500,000. If he's willing to take 100%, what is that, a 50% pay cut, then awesome. But if I'm Kubo, I'm holding out because there might be some other MLS team that just happens to have 900,000 that will throw at him. So
I wouldn't be paying 500,000 for somebody in that position coming off the bench in MLS. That's just me.
He's coming off the bench for us, but he may not be coming off the bench for San Jose. He may be a starter.
True for San Jose.
So I think if I'm personally Kubo, I hold out. See what I can get, but we'll see. That would be, I would love for him to come back. All right, now getting to the players that are on either options or we just don't know. Jeff Cameron, $500,000 impact if he stays, or if he goes, it probably frees up about $500,000. Tyler Blackett has a option. I think there's something interesting with his option if it's executed, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Junior Moreno, we believe. John Nelson, Baji, Powell, Murphy, Alec Can, Nick. Is that, how do you say Nick's last name? Do you guys remember Nick?
Markanich?
That one? Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's close to it for the options that we don't know if they will be executed. Keep in mind, there's Leagues Cup next year. There's a lot more games being played, and so
depth is critical.
Depth is critical. So if some of those guys get brought back, like a John Nelson, and you're like, "What, John Nelson? I don't understand." There's reasons. There's more reasons that Chris Albrights of the world might understand.
Yeah, you're not bringing those guys in hoping that they show up in the playoffs, right? Like you're hoping that those guys show up and eat some minutes in League Cup and the other cups and all of the other small, those midweek games on the road at San Jose. Like you hoping those guys get time there where they don't have to show up when it matters.
Yeah. And thankfully the club took the biggest name off the list, which was Brandon Vasquez, who was theoretically in danger of
good choice.
Team.
Yeah.
So
I think if they can maybe negotiate down Cameron a little bit, I don't know if they can. And I'd like to see.
I guess the question is, what would be his role next year? Because I think going into this year, we weren't 100% sure if he was actually going to be playing as much as he ended up playing, and he ended up being way more vital. And then, towards the end, when Miazga came in, the two of them seemed to gel really well. So, do you try to go for another year of that, or
keep in mind,
is age catching up?
We still are pretty rough defensively overall.
We were true. But a lot of that, I think, had to do with our limitations on the roster. And if we're freeing up this much money, there's an opportunity there to go out and get some starters in the back line that I think you could then maybe try to renegotiate guys like Cameron, guys like Powell. And I wouldn't mind seeing John Nelson back, too, as a depth piece. But get those guys in because, like we mentioned, is all the cup games. I don't want FC Cincinnati to be one of those teams like RSL that completely gives up on the U.S. Open Cup every year. There's an opportunity there to win a trophy, but you're not going to be able to do that unless you fill up your roster with enough pieces to make a deep run. So, if we can get Cameron back, if we can get John Nelson back and Alvis Powell, and junior, that'd be great. It's just how much are they wanting to play and how much are they wanting to get paid, I think is the big thing.
Would you go for another year of Baji? I mean, he ultimately, I think he didn't live up to what the hopes were, especially early in the season when there was a lot of hope of how he was going to.
I mean, he did nearly concuss Brandon Vasquez on that one.
So there's a bonus. Yeah.
He was number 3, right? He was a hard number 3 as far as strikers go. And then
he got replaced by Santos. I mean, he was Santos, Baji kind of you hoped was going to be your backup Vasquez and as a physical body in the middle, and it just never worked. And you were like, all right, well, Santos, we can get Santos, who we know what he brings in, and he provides something vastly different than anything else our strikers can do. So let's kick the tires, and it worked out. So yeah, I don't think the club is going to be missing too much without Dom Baji back in. I think you could find another striker out there. Maybe it's a draft pick. Maybe it's something cheap on the end that can be your number 3 if you really need it.
Old Philly guy we can dig up somewhere.
Sure.
And we're also freeing up
always more of those.
We're freeing up several international spots too. Like there's a lot of international spots I think that are going to come free this year.
Good point. I didn't think of that. And then we got the academy. Already signed one. So one new homegrown. So we'll see what FC Cincinnati has up their sleeves.
Yeah, let's keep working at that.
Yeah.
Would a guy like Zico Bailey, would he just so he's out of options, would he just be offered maybe an MLS next contract or something like that?
Depends if he thinks he can't stay in MLS.
Sure.
Which I don't know if he can, but that's all going to come down to.
Or does he go try to get a starting gig in USL?
Yeah. What's the money like? Probably.
Sure.
Is FC Cincinnati
he would tear
done?
it up in USL?
You think so?
I think he would.
It's easy to forget he's only 22. Like he's one of those guys that those names have been around. His name's been around forever, and it's just like, wait, he's only 22. It's like
I hate giving up on guys.
Exactly. That's why I don't want to give up on. Like, offer him something where you keep him around to an extent. Maybe you bring him in and then you loan him out to USL for the season or something.
What if they gave up on Brandon Vasquez? Like Atlanta gave up on him, and look how that turned out.
Nashville gave up on him,
and Nashville just gave him to us. They're like, yeah, sure, you can have him with our draft pick. So some of these players don't come alive till 24, 25. That's about the age that you see some of these late bloomers. So it's hard. FCC's invested a lot into the Zico Bailey project, and we've invested a lot into a couple other projects. So it's just a matter of, is it time to cut some of those loose? Do we really just have the roster space for it? We could carry a few of those last roster spots. We have a whole. You're right. It's a good shout out. We've got a whole MLS Next Pro team that can carry them. I probably would be cutting a lot of those guys, though, because they were not very good this year. Or at least cutting the coach. Something's got to go there, right?
Yeah, that team had a bit of a nightmare of a season.
They were like signing guys because they didn't have enough players. It was a wild situation down there. So hopefully they get that focused.
Well, I did talk to. I think we talked to Albright / Noonan before the season, and the focus was 100% on the first team. They said we don't have enough time to fix the first team and launch the second team. There was even talk, maybe theoretically off the record, but there was even talk about postponing that second team launch. I don't think.
I heard that floated around. I
don't think he was super thrilled walking in the door. They were like, hey, by the way, remember we told you need to fix the first team? Well, we also are started this new thing. Right? Go ahead and fill out that roster and try to win that. And he basically said, think about it, though. He's not getting fired if the two team finishes last. No one cares. So he's only getting fired if the first team finishes last. And he made the right call on that decision. So expect him, though, to get more involved, to jump in with the two team now, because Philadelphia is famous for their building youth products. Even in the last game, you saw Corey Burke come on. That's a guy that's been through their entire system from the academy onward. So expect FCC to start focusing on these areas more, and we should see next year. I hope we're talking not necessarily so much about options and whatnot. We're talking about who's coming up. That'd be a great conversation to have. MLS playoffs, guys. I know we're out of it, but did you know there's still people playing games right now?
Watched a few minutes of one of them.
Yeah. So that's kind of my question. Do you care? Are you finishing this out?
Yeah. No, I've always been a big fan of the MLS playoffs and watching MLS Cup. I guess I'm one of those odd ones that find that to be appointment television. I know on the whole, the sports consumer in this country would not trend in that direction. But yeah, no, I've always loved it. I was even watching a little like USL playoffs last night. Like,
Detroit City got bounced.
Yeah, they got bounced. Yeah. Like Oakland Roots like just burned San Diego to the ground. That was pretty fun. That was also like an insane red card in that where a guy like touched a dude's face and the guy acted like he was shot, and the ref bought it and gave the other dude a straight red.
Maybe I'm saying this because I was ride or die for single elimination.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm only saying this because my team is out. But I kind of miss the two-legged playoffs this year.
Yeah,
but
you didn't want to play Red Bulls twice.
I mean, I think we beat them twice, but
whatever gets us in
I'm
Stadium.
only saying this because my team is out. Any other year,
sure.
I love single elimination. I think that's one of the reasons I prefer. I mean, I am a European soccer fan. But I think that's one of the reasons I prefer MLS to European soccer is because you have a playoff to determine the champion, and it just makes it so much more entertaining at the end of the season. I mean, in the EPL, it's going to be Manchester City again, and we know it. Like, that's going to be locked down with like 8 weeks left in the season. Here, I don't know if LAFC is going to win. I don't know if Philly's going to win. It's a lot more entertaining to me as a neutral at this point to watch these playoffs, and it always has been.
Anyone else shocked Montreal got bounced? Because I am.
That was surprising. For them to lose that badly at home, that was a little stunning.
After how they looked in that first game at home, like that crowd, that environment was so electric, and it was just like they've got everything working for them right now. This team's gonna make a run, and then. Unfortunately.
Nope.
They play such pretty. Of all the MLS teams I've watched this year, end of season Montreal was gorgeous soccer. They don't. I told a few people this at the watch party. I said Montreal scares me the most to play because I think they're a lot better than when FC Cincinnati played them 4-3. Mm-hmm. I think this is a team that doesn't have a Vasquez Brenner Acosta combo. They've got 11 guys that did a job. And executed. They were like the highest accuracy passing in the league. They were just beautiful to watch. It was just like ding, 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 watching a pinball bounce around a pinball machine. And so I loved watching them. Still flabbergasted. That's the weirdness of single elimination, Jason. I'm with you.
And plus Montreal has FC Cincinnati legend Kai Kamara playing for him too.
So. Certainly does. I wasn't going to be mad if Noonan lost Coach of the Year to Nancy, just because with what they were working with and everything that they went, like that's even different than FC Cincinnati. Like they don't even have that kind of backing. It's just so unique out there. So obviously Noonan can't lose it because MLS is bad.
What about these Crew fans taking a parade on our loss to Philadelphia Union?
For the quote-unquote big brother that's just above what we're doing down here, they seem to be concerned about it an awful lot all the time. Yeah. It's the clip, it's the meme of Mad Men of like where Draper just looks at that dude and just like, I don't think of you at all. Like they think about us so much and they're always worried about us. And it's like I'm not overly like when it's Hell is Real Week? Sure. That's what I'm concerned about. But like, if they were still advancing in the playoffs and if they bombed out of the playoffs, like in a very normal, non-embarrassing way. Like I don't know what parade I'm hopping on there. Like what are you doing?
It was objectively hilarious to see them crash out before the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like to fail in the playoffs, the way that they did it again.
Oh
like,
yeah.
That bit went on so long, and it was. I will admit it.
Well, yeah, because it's one of those things you just couldn't believe it just kept happening to them. Like this can't possibly happen another time. Oh, it did.
Yeah,
I think,
and it's wild to think too, because Cincinnati had more drop points from a winning position than they did.
They just saved them all for the end of the season.
It just didn't feel that way because
I think it's finally hitting Crew fans that the former Browns owner, Art Modell, is the reason their team is still in Ohio in the first place. But then they got saddled with the current Browns owner, who is one of the worst owners in sports. And they're going to have to deal with that forever.
Like they own that.
And
they
own that, but they're going to have to own the suck that comes with it. Because at some point, Haslam's going to Haslam, and they're going to be the Columbus Browns of Major League Soccer.
They'll be the Cleveland Browns of Columbus.
Yeah, and they're gonna realize, oh crap,
we've made a deal with the devil.
Yeah, and they're going to be mired in the mediocrity that is that giant suburb, while FC Cincinnati is on the rise.
On the rise. There you go. Speaking of owners, did you see our owner put out a new letter? It's the first letter since the last letter that said we're going to get better. It was a couple years later than he wanted, but did you get that email?
I didn't. I'm also still waiting. I'm also like the last guy still waiting for his season ticket holder vest or whatever. I
did get that. Ordered. I did get that today. No, I thought it was a neat letter, basically saying sorry it took so long, but I hope you enjoyed that season. I did, and I'm giving a total abbreviated version since you didn't see it. But it was a nice. It showed. The comments on Reddit were very positive, which is unique. It's Reddit. That people generally were like, this shows me that he still cares. He's still fighting. He wants more. So the fan base took it the right way.
Yeah. They did exactly that. It whether, his name was attached to it, whether he actually wrote it or not, somebody in his PR team said, hey, this is a good idea to showcase that this investment that you've made that like a lot of people care about is turning a pretty good product in, and we're gonna keep committed to the statement of we're always gonna try to get better. And yeah, I think it was great.
You ready for final thoughts?
Sure,
let's do it.
All right. Before that, there's always a but first. But first, we're going to get into our lovely, amazing people that made this season possible. Our Patreon supporters. So let's give a big shout out to Ree Lee, John Davidson, Mike Hudson, Robert Stevens, Laurel Failer, Matthew Adamczyk, Riley Stephen Burke, James Denbrough, Tom Newhouse, Brian and Brad Weigel, Brian Gills, Dan Alberts, Will Kychek, Ian Rexroad, Augustus Caceres, Bill Antonitis, Carl Feit, Jeremy Schrand, Kyle Pohl, Christina Sharpa, Rupesh, where are you tonight, Rupesh? Tom Beaversdorf, Jason, who is super average, John Haskell, Ryan Ernst, Mary Lou, Wes Anastasi, Rob Pierce, Clifford Adams, Pierce Johnson, Mike Parentis, Mr. and Mrs. Wiederhold, Rob Gassell, Kevin Day, Jamie Smed, Alex Carnegus, Mike Bowman, Patrick Lahani, Dave Tingler, Brett Sova, Chris Hubbard, Kevin Cooney, Joe Max, Jack Emery, Sarah Gorman, David Moore, Bob Ryan, Ryan Durkin, Bart Levita, Mark Neuenschweimer, Rob Triple, Joe Lohr, Bill Leopold, Maureen Desmarais, and Jose. Thank you all for supporting CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com and listening to me get lost in that list. That happens from time to time. All right, best and worst. Jump into it, Mr. Lance.
Final thoughts. I'm going to go with a big shout out to Tommy G, Kevin McCluskey, Alex Seck, Lindsay Patterson, who was there before her, just the whole crew that have put together a great broadcast for this city, dating all the way back to day one of USL, when most clubs at that level had some pretty bootleg broadcasts that were not bringing the eyes to the screen.
Right.
This club did something very smart early on, and that was put an emphasis in that portion of it, having a good broadcast, having a TV deal that was super accessible, even though that brief moment when they went with Flow FC. Well, we're going to brush over that part. Hey, we all make mistakes.
Last from the past.
But just the work that was done by that team, it's unfortunate that it's coming to this very unceremonious ending of just all of the local broadcasts across the league. And I mean, it's wild to think that, some of these broadcast teams have been around since day one of MLS. All the way back in the 90s, you had guys that are still there putting in the work, putting in great broadcasts. Hats off to them. Shout out to them. They did more for this club and its growth than I think most will give them credit for, because it means so much to have that local, the local broadcast, the local feel, and that local presence. And they did it, and they did it well from day one. And hats off to them.
Amen. Good shout out. All right, Josh, your first final thought.
Yeah, my final thought, and it kind of piggybacks nicely and transitions from Jeremy's to, we moved now into this territory in MLS with Apple, under the Apple umbrella, and with it comes a lot of money. That's a multi-billion-dollar deal that the league is going to see invested into their product by a gargantuan company, which money means nothing to them. So they have a moment now where they can really make this league something something powerful in this country, and actually compete on a market with other leagues or sports or whatever in this country. And I just really hope they don't fumble it from the jump by asking some gargantuan money fee for the rights to buy that package, because as obviously I'm speaking from somebody who, I'm not a season ticket holder, because really it doesn't make sense for me to be a season ticket holder. So that's quite the commute every week that I cannot make. So I have to rely on this and have to rely on this package to watch this team most weeks. So this is a fun time for MLS to be taken seriously as a sports league, as a soccer league in this country, and it's up to them to do the right thing and make this thing affordable, because this league is still so young in its existence that they still have there's a lot of mistakes that they can still make to really derail things. So hopefully this isn't one of them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We have no idea what's coming, do we? So there's not a lot of details out there.
Dudes in studios calling games off monitors. That is what is coming, at least from just the general standpoint. But it'll be interesting to see what Apple brings as far as like all the original content and extra content that they're going to create for the league. I'm definitely excited about that.
We're dudes in studios.
We are.
Sort of.
I'm in a basement.
To your point earlier about marketing, this is a great time for them to be able to market this league and players and everything with unique content that other leagues have been doing for years. Now you finally have the financial backing to be able to kind of do it. So more Brandon Vasquez eating pancakes in interviews, please.
More
I
angles.
want that Drive to Survive style documentary series, just going inside on the league.
Yeah,
I want that. I want to
show us the drama.
MLS films, like the old NFL films.
There you go.
With the narrator and like the really intense orchestra music and stuff.
We're going full wish list mode here. I'm going to go realistic. Just more angles. VAR has better things to work with. Get a nice overhead line shot that always follows the ball. I mean, there's the wish list right there. Jason, final.
Final thought. It's nice that we're entering an off season to be excited about rather than kind of dreading what comes next. We're talking about players that might be coming and going, and we've seen what this front office has done in the past with very little in the way of roster spots and allocation. I mean, they had plenty of allocation money, but they didn't have a lot to work with, and they were able to get 5th place in the East. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do in the offseason, and I'm already amped for next year. Not just that, but we've got St. Louis entering the league. We've got Nashville coming back to the Eastern Conference. We've got, an opportunity to have road trips, and we've got renewed rivalries and hopefully new rivalries and stuff. I'm just really excited for the offseason this year, and hope to see everybody November 21st at Greenworks for our World Cup watch party.
Ooh, nice shout.
Good plug.
Yeah.
Good plug.
Since that was on the rundown.
How exciting will it be to have another St. Louis team to hate?
Oh, other than their colors and the St. Louligans seem like cool people, I already hate that team.
Yeah.
But the colors and the St. Louligans, y'all are fine. Everything else, hope you never win again.
Nashville's back too. There's lots of exciting next year.
Oh yeah, Nashville in the East, right?
Yeah. Yep. We're gonna have lots of fun potential road trips next year. It's gonna be great.
Yep. Oh man, my final thoughts. I want to give a shout out to a fellow podcast in the Cincinnati Soccer Talk circles. I believe if he's not playing some giant prank on us, which is always possible.
I was gonna say it is them, so they're probably lying, but
no, Jonah, I appreciate you. We've had many talks over the years, and you're moving into my first financial world next year, so I might actually get to see more of you. And shout out if you, I get it. It's a lot. It's a big time commitment to do this week in, week out. And he, of course, doesn't have awesome co-hosts and people that sub in for him very often. He's running that baby every single Monday. So Sunday night, yeah. So we want to give Jonah a shout out. KLR is ending their 3 or 4 year run now. So big shout out. Most podcasts don't make it that long, and it's pretty cool to see everything you built, and your community will continue onwards. And of course, I'm sure you'll still be living out on the FC Cincinnati Discords and Pride supporter groups and postcast and all that kind of stuff. So shout out. And oh my goodness, we're getting
nobody
invaded.
Click the comment and you do it. Don't do it.
Did Jonah put those on there?
I know, right?
It was right on time for us to get spammed in the comments.
Yeah. For those just listening to the audio podcast, of course, our show is live, and every once in a while there are weird stuff going down on the YouTubes or Facebook or whatever. So, thanks for listening, though. Thanks for a great season. We're not going anywhere. I feel like we just talked about Jonah leaving, and so you might be like, "Wait, where are you guys going?" We're not going anywhere. We're sticking around. The off season does slow things down a little bit, but there's roster moves happening here. And then this winter will probably slow down just a bit. And, of course, do some internal getting stuff ready for you guys in 2023. But for now, nothing's changing. Let's just keep hanging out. And we will see you next week.